Hi, I'm Pierce.
And I'm Grace.
And this is Adjusting to the Curve.
Great. So we have two great guests on today. We're kind of going over Black History Month and what it's like to be an African American just growing up in a chiropractic university or just even just growing up in general. So, Law, if you can introduce yourself and just tell people who you are.
My name is Law Pickett. I am the Chief of Security at Logan University. I'm a retired military and retired St. Louis City police officer.
I actually did not know that.
I didn't.
y'all gotta talk to these people, man. Y'all gotta talk to these people.
Cameron, you want to go ahead?
My name is Kameron Frazier. I'm a Tri-3 at Logan right now. From St. Louis.
Did you grow up here?
I did, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I also didn't know
you
that.
learned something new.
I assumed like Chicago, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I get those vibes.
Okay, well, first, like Pierce said, we're just going to kind of kick off Black History Month. So first, I just want to start off with Cameron. What was it like growing up, like as a mixed child in St. Louis, or really just growing up in general?
I would say growing up mixed was, or biracial, I like to say, was definitely an experience. Mm-hmm. From the beginning, I've always known that there's black and white. That's very obvious, but I never truly saw the differences because I was different myself. Mm-hmm. My mom's white. I was able to see two different sides of two different upbringings, basically. My mom grew up in a cute little suburban neighborhood in Illinois. My dad grew up in downtown north side of St. Louis in the projects. So I got to see two very different upbringings at an early age. And I would say now in my adulthood, looking back, I definitely struggled a lot with how I identified myself. Because it was always a topic as a kid, just wanting to be accepted at that age and fit into a group. I just never did. So it was different. It definitely taught me a lot. Like, at a young age, it was pointed out to me, like, my differences were there. Like, I wasn't like everybody else. But, yeah.
I'm sure that was different. See, from where I'm from, it's a very white community, so it was different coming here just because there's so many different ethnicities and cultures, and it really makes you think like about just what everybody goes through.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Like, I think everyone's experience and their skin is different. I know for me, I've always been taught, like, by my dad, like, you're out in the world, you're going to be seen as a black woman. I've never truly identified as someone that's biracial, but to the world, to society, I'm not biracial. Like, you know, like, off, you know, first meeting, no one's going to pick that out about me. Even as a kid, like, no one knew my mom was white. Like, that would be always a topic of discussion for me. Like, oh, your mom's white. Are you adopted? You don't look like her. Or, you know, it made me very self-conscious about stuff like that, too.
And on that topic of, like, just coming to a diverse place, I grew up in a very suburban neighborhood in Austin, Texas, and it was just, like, I had Mexican friends, black friends, white friends, Asian friends, and so it was, like, it was cool. And then I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and I was kind of, like, not fully inner city, but, like, kind of. The whole school was black and Kurdish. And I was like, I mean, this is completely different. Then I came to Memphis, Tennessee, and it was another culture shock. And I was like, wow, this is not what I'm used to growing up with. But it's like I had to, I don't know, change my way of thinking. It's like, man, this is just different. And I came to love it. So, Law, growing up from where you're from, how did you? What was it like growing up? I guess you from downtown, correct?
Projects North St. Louis, but she made me feel some kind of way because I was prepared to answer that question.
Yeah.
But growing up at the end of the civil rights era in the late 60s and early 70s, as a black child, but with blonde hair and blue eyes, I was picked on a lot from from my peers. So I repressed all of that until you mentioned it. Hold on. Hold tight.
All right. And that's real life. It's like a lot of things you try to compress and you try to put deep inside that you don't even think about until you get older, until somebody brings it up.
No, yeah. And when you think about it, like, kids they're brutal. Like, kids are, they're brutally honest, but they can be mean. Like, all the time. Like, oh, what are you? Oh, you're a mutt. Oh, you're this. Like, you don't belong in this group. Like, my biggest thing I would always say was I was too black for the white kids, too white for the black kids, and I just never was accepted in either group. It'd be like, oh, you can't hang with us. You're this, or oh no, we don't do that. So I always had to be like on my own little island by myself. Like, there was never, until I got to my junior year of high school, there was never a biracial person. Like, I was the only one that always had to get asked the questions.
Right.
But yeah, like, people are brutal. People are brutal with that stuff. If you look different, you stand out, people are gonna make sure you know that you're different.
But yeah, as I got older, we moved from that area to a place called Laclede Town, and there was a mixture of people. It was a actual project because the purpose was to include people of all races, and this was in the Mill Creek area of St. Louis, Missouri. So that was pretty cool. You know, I got to go to school with people from all over the world. You know, not just black and white, but people from Africa, people from England, and yeah, it was a really, really good experience growing up.
Good, that's good.
But yeah, you unlocked that for me. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem.
And it's good to have those. You know, it's good to let it out sometimes. But Kameron, what was it like? The way you were brought up as an African American woman, did that influence you to become a chiropractor? Did that influence on like decisions you made to you do what you do now?
I would say yes. Yes, I would say yes. But more so for the reasons, like, I've always thought of it like I had a bigger cause to be some representation for those young black kids that just don't have that. Like, you don't see it. It's always in the jobs where, you have to be full force with, like, interacting with people all the time and different backgrounds, and you don't always see what looks like you, like, to make you think that you can do it. So for me, that definitely drove me to want to go past just the norm. Like, I at first thought I was just going to be an athlete. Like, I thought that's all I was going to do. I didn't think I was going to do anything else, honestly, past any type of point. But yeah, I think that drove me a lot, because I was like, nah, I can do this. Like, I may not see it. My family doesn't do it, or, my dad never had those experiences. I was like, that it just drove me more to want to do it, complete it, and to be able to say that I beat all the odds, like, even though it's not in my favor.
Well, I guess on that chiropractic note, how do you feel that Logan, for both of you, how do you feel that Logan has kind of, I guess, influenced that? Not just really in the chiropractic world, but also just, like, day-to-day life here, if that question makes any sense.
Influence what?
Kind of just, like, those feelings about, like, being people of color, even just all different kinds of cultures and ethnicities. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of different cultures here. So like I was saying earlier, I came from a very white community. So coming here, at first it was like kind of, I guess, not really confusing, but just like a culture shock, like you were saying. And now I just walk through the halls and it doesn't even really faze me anymore.
I figure in grad school you have experience with experience. So you're more prepared to deal with different demographics at this point. And if you're not dealing well with different demographics at this point, then the problem is on you. So
I definitely agree.
To your point, though, when you said you guys both kind of said you had a cultural shock, I will say since not until I got to college, like every school that I've gone to has been more, it's always been diverse in some sense, but it's mostly been black people. Like, I've only had black friends. I've only went to school with majority of that. And I had a culture shock when I went to college, and I went to a PWI, predominantly white institution. And that was really different. And that made me, like, super aware how set back I am compared to everyone else, or just like how judgmental the world can be just because you come from a different walk of life. And here, I would say it's kind of, for me, it's a little bit of the same. Like, I feel like it is a bit of a culture shock because it's not majority of me, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does.
Because moving to, on that topic, like moving to Memphis with the whole culture shock thing, the first thing people would say would be like, oh, you talk white. And I was like,
yeah.
How do you talk white? Just because I know how to enunciate my words, I know how to speak properly doesn't mean I'm a certain race or whatever. But it's different everywhere. But thank you guys for coming on to the show. Really appreciate both of y'all. And make sure, with this whole Black History Month thing, I want you guys to just understand that having the conversations, like even these conversations with your friends, your family, people that don't look like you, whether you're black, white, or whatever race, just have these open conversations normally. Thank you guys for tuning to the podcast, and we'll see you next time.